So about a couple years ago, we got an addition put onto our house, and we have this PVC pipe coming down from the addition. It's for our HVAC system, it's for drainage and all that. It comes down, it's kind of an ugly cut, whatever, but it's not secured. It's just floating there, and it wiggles like crazy. The only thing holding it in there is the savior rock at the bottom. So we're going to make a bracket, then we're going to 3D print it and get it set. But first we have to figure out what size this pole actually is, and it shows that it's 1.04 inches in diameter. We'll use that in our model once we get to the design part of this. Going into my shop here real fast, if I open up my little drawer here and take a look at screws that I have, these are 2-inch screws. They're sort of construction grade, and they're also weather resistant. So we're going to use that and grab some measurements off of there and be good to go. Alright folks, so we're here in Onshape. We're going to go through and figure out exactly where we want this thing to be, what size, and all that stuff. So I'm going to start off with a sketch here. We're going to do this on the front view. And basically, I want to see what this thing's going to look like when I'm actually trying to mount it vertically to the wall of the kind of the wooden thing there. So I'm going to start off here, and that's going to be essentially set up in a way that I'm not sure the exact size. I'm going to start off with an inch and a half as far as its width, and then its height honestly doesn't really matter. I'm probably just going to make it like a 1/2 inch. That part's not a big deal. And then I'm going to draw some vertical lines. These are going to get deleted here in just a moment, but I just kind of want to figure out exactly where this is going to be and how big it's going to be, what exactly I need to do with it. The purpose of these vertical lines is to show if there's a hole going through here, where that hole is going to exist at on this rectangle. So I'm going to use the letter D for dimension. I'm going to say from the edge of that hole, I want that to be 1/8 of an inch. So 0.125 or 1/8. And then the distance between them, when we measured it, it was 1.04. I'm going to put 1.1. That just gives us a little bit of buffer zone to kind of make this where we want. And then when we measured the head of the screw, I'm going to just use C for circle. I'm just going to just put one in here and see what it looks like. That's going to be 0.3. And you can see that that's way too big. So we need to make this thing wider. So I'm going to just make it like say 1.75. And if I do that, it allows me to put one screw kind of right in there. That's fine. We can do that. Or if we wanted to, we can expand the height here. And that will allow us to go through and put multiple screws. I'm not super worried about that. This has been like it is right now for multiple years, so that's not a big deal. I'm going to leave that as it is. So we're going to delete that. We're going to delete this, and we're going to delete this. I'm just using it to lay out. And I'm going to finish my sketch and extrude just this rectangle. I'm going to do that in 1/8 of an inch. I could do more. It doesn't really matter. But I'm going to do 1/8 of an inch on this face right here. And I'll hit my green check mark. From there, I need to rotate this or over or down or figure out exactly what's going on because I need to see some things. So I'm going to sketch from here to there. And on that, I'm going to create another rectangle. That's going to be, I'm just going to put 1.5 or type it correctly, 1.5, and we're going to make it a 1/2 inch tall. This, again, is not going to be anything set in stone. I just want to see where things are at, what exactly is going on with them, and I'm just going to drag these dimensions out of the way so I can create everything that I need to do. So we're going to go in here, and again, we're just setting up our lines again, just like we did before. So I'm going to dimension from here to there with the letter D. It's going to be 1/8. You can see I can use dimensions as far as fractions or decimals. It doesn't really matter. And from here to there of 1.1, and then this dimension of 1.5. I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to add a new dimension between here and there. I also want that to be 1/8, so 0.125. All right, that looks good. Now that I have all that set, I can delete these two lines, and I'm going to extrude this thing once I finish my sketch. I'm going to not click on sketch. I'm going to extrude, and I'm going to click on this part, and I want that to be 1.1 plus 1/8. So 1/8 or 0.125. It means the same thing. But basically what I'm doing is I'm building in that area that I'm going to put the hole in a little bit later. And I have my area for the screw that I want to put in there as well. So I'm going to sketch on here very quickly. I'll go to C for circle. I'm just going to put in that's going to be 1.1. And then from there I can dimension from here to there. We want that to be 1.1 divided by 2 plus 1/8. And we get that. And then I can go through and do the exact same thing from the top. So 1.1/2, it divides it by 2, plus 1/8. So I'm adding on 1/8 there. And you can see that it lines up beautifully. After that, I'll finish my sketch. I'll go through, extrude this. Instead of adding, I'm going to go to remove. And instead of blind, I just want it to be through all. It'll punch a hole in that, no problem. If I'd like, I can fillet it. I'll worry about that later. Right now, I need to go through and worry about the size of that hole that's going to be for the drill, or for the screw, excuse me. And from our video, it was 0.13, or excuse me, 0.3. So I'm going to sketch on here. Go over to the front. I'm going to use the line tool because I want this to be centered up perfectly. So I'm just going to go from one corner to the other. Any good carpenter knows if you take a measurement from one corner to the other, you can very quickly figure out if you have an item that's square or not. And then we use the point tool, which we can find here. It's Shift and the letter S, or the point tool. And I'm going to put that right on the center, that cross mark there. So I'll finish the sketch at that point, and then from there I can use the hole tool, and I'll click on that point. And I want this to be not a counterbore, but I want it to be a countersink because my screw is countersunk. The diameter of that screw is countersink. If we look here, is going to be 0.3. And then the diameter of the screw itself is 0.15. So you can see very quickly we can get that thing dialed in. I don't have to do any math work or anything like that. It will do all of the work for me. I get that set. I get my green check mark. And look at that. I can always extend this out if I wanted to. I don't know if that's really necessary. This thing's not like getting whipped around like crazy. It's just in a strong breeze. I want to make sure that it's set. But I could do more if I wanted to. I'm going to put some fillets on here. We're going to do 1.1 divided by 2 plus 1/8. And that should round that over perfectly. I'll hit my green check. And that's all beautiful. And for strength, I'd probably want to make this a little longer and then put a chamfer or a fillet in there. So we can always go back to the original extrusion and work on that sketch. So if I go back to my original sketch and right click on it, edit it, instead of being 1.75, maybe I'll make it 2. And I'll hit my green check mark here. You can see that's moved away. It's centered up on there. I didn't have to do anything. It did that all by itself. And then I'll go into fillet and just add that corner, gusset, or fillet in there. I'm going to say maybe 1/8. Should be more than enough. And then that allows us to get that set and ready to go. The only other things I might want to do is add some fillets onto the top and bottom of this so that the pole can slide in there easier if it doesn't already do that. So we know the thickness of this is a half inch. So maybe I'll use 1/8 of an inch fillet on here and there. You can see that rounds over. And maybe I could do the same on the sides of this. And if I do that, all of that stuff is set beautifully. It does all of the fillets for that without any issue. And maybe I'll do it on that side as well. When I hit my green checkbox, we have that set ready to go. You can see there's a little flat spot in there. It's not a perfect circle. I don't care. The screw is going to sit in there, no problem. And we have that set ready to go. We can throw that in the printer. It's probably going to build from the bottom side kind of coming up, and it'll be set ready to go, and we have no issues with that printing. So that's that. Let's go and print it. And here's the part printed. I printed 2 of them. This is out of PLA, which I know is not rated for outside. I don't really care. This was about a 20-25 minute print for the 2 of them, and they're not particularly pretty, but they should work. And that's all I really need. I just want peace of mind that this thing's not going to break off in the middle of a storm or something like that. So we're going to go here and remove the savior rock, and you can see how much work that thing was actually doing. This is just hanging down like crazy, and we're just going to slide on both these at first. We'll attach the bottom one and then the top one, and they don't need to be all that high up. We're just going to kind of put them in there and be ready to go. So I drilled a pilot hole, and then I'm just using my driver to send this thing home, and we have one attached. You can see how much more solid that connection is. We'll do another one a little farther up, and then we'll put the savior rock back roughly in place along with some gravel to keep it all safe, and we have a solution.